The great hall of the Valoran Imperial Palace shined with golden light. Thousands of guests filled the room. They came from every corner of the galaxy for the Century Summit. This was the most important gathering of all. Alien species, leaders, nobles, and diplomats talked and laughed together. Servants moved through the crowd with drinks and food. Music played softly in the background, but in the shadows, a tall window, one person stood alone. Princess Vera of House Salon watched the celebration from the darkness. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the dim light. Her violet eyes were beautiful but filled with sadness. She wore a simple gray dress while her sisters wore bright colors and expensive jewels. No one looked at her. No one spoke to her. It was like she did not exist. 5 years ago, the Imperial Fertility Council tested her. They said she could not have children. In Valoran culture, this was the worst thing possible. Family lines meant everything. A woman who could not continue the bloodline had no value. From that day, Vera became invisible to her own people. Her father, the Emperor, stopped speaking to her. Her mother looked at her with disappointment. Her sisters avoided her like she carried a disease. Suitors who once wanted to marry her disappeared overnight. Friends stopped visiting. Vera went from being a beloved princess to a ghost. Her own home tonight was no different. She watched her sisters dance with handsome nobles. She watched her brother Prince Kalen receive praise and attention, and she stood alone. Forgotten. There you are. A loud voice called out. Vera's heart sank. She knew that voice. Prince Kalen walked toward her with a cruel smile on his face. Several noble guests followed him, curious to see what would happen. I was wondering where our little withered branch was hiding, Kalen said loudly. People nearby turned to look. Come, dear sister, why do you hide in the shadows? Are you ashamed? Vera kept her voice calm. I did not want to disturb the celebration, brother. Disturb? Kalen laughed. How could you disturb anything? You are nothing less than nothing. He turned to his followers. Did you know that we tried to find her a husband? Even the lowest noble refused. Who wants a barren woman? She cannot give children. She cannot continue any family line. She is useless. The nobles laughed. Vera felt her face burn with shame, but she did not cry. She had learned not to cry in public anymore. Perhaps we should sell her as a servant, Kalen continued. At least then she would have some purpose. More laughter filled the air. Vera wanted to run away, but she forced herself to stand still. Running would only make Kalen happier. Across the room, a group of humans watched this scene. They were new to the galactic community. Other species called them primitive and young, but Captain Daniel Cole did not feel primitive as he watched the silver-skinned woman endure such cruelty. He felt angry. Who is that? Daniel asked Ambassador Grace Mitchell, his mentor. Grace looked inside. Princess Vera, third daughter of the Emperor. She was declared infertile 5 years ago. In Valorian culture, that makes her worthless. Sad, really, I hear. She is quite intelligent. Daniel watched as the cruel prince finally walked away, leaving Vera alone again. The other guests returned to their conversations. Like nothing happened. No one offered her comfort. No one even looked at her with sympathy. Excuse me, Daniel said to Grace, I need some air. He walked through the crowd toward the balcony where Vera had retreated. She stood at the railing looking up at the stars. Her Silver hair moved gently in the night. Wind even in her simple dress, she was the most beautiful woman Daniel had ever seen. The stars are pretty tonight, Daniel said, standing beside her. Vera turned quickly, surprised. No one ever approached her willingly. When she saw his uniform, she recognized him as human. You should not talk to me, she said quietly. It will hurt your reputation, Daniel smiled. My reputation can survive a conversation with a beautiful woman. Vera stared at him. No one had called her beautiful in 5 years. You do not know who I am. You are Princess Vera, Daniel said. I saw what happened inside. That man was cruel and wrong. That man is my brother, Vera said bitterly, and by Valorian standards he is right. I am worthless. I cannot have children. I have no value. Daniel was quiet for a moment, then he shook his head. That is strange to me. On Earth, we do not measure a person's worth by what they can produce. We measure it by who they are, by their kindness, their intelligence, their courage. Vera looked at him like he was speaking a foreign language. That is different. Maybe different is good, Daniel said. He held out his hand. I am Captain Daniel Cole, Earth Diplomatic Corps. Would you like to take a walk with me? The gardens look peaceful. Vera hesitated. This had to be a trick. No. Clear's throat. One was kind to her without wanting something, but she saw only warmth in his brown eyes. Against her better judgment, she took his hand. They walked through the palace gardens. For hours, Daniel told her about Earth. He described blue oceans and green forests. He talked about his mother and sister. He made her laugh with stories about his clumsy first days in space. And he asked her questions, real questions about her thoughts, her interests, her dreams. No one had asked Vera about her dreams in 5 years. You speak 7 languages, Daniel said, impressed. You understand political systems across the galaxy. You are clearly brilliant. How can anyone call you worthless? Vera felt tears forming in her eyes. Because I cannot give children. Nothing else matters to my people. Daniel stopped walking. He faced her directly. Then, your people are foolish. A person is more than their biology. You are more than what your body can or cannot do. He smiled gently. Tomorrow there is an important diplomatic session. I would be honored if you would attend as my guest. Your guest, Vera whispered. But the scandal. Let them talk, Daniel said. I have met many people at this summit. You are the only one worth knowing. That night, Vera returned to her room and cried, but for the first time in 5 years, they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of hope. A human, a stranger from a primitive world had seen her, really seen her, and he thought she had value. She did not know it yet, but her life was about to change forever. The next morning, Vera almost did not go. She stood in front of her mirror, wearing a dress she had not touched in years. It was deep blue, the color of Earth's oceans. Daniel had described them so beautifully last night. Her hands were shaking. What if he changed his mind? What if he realized that being seen with her was a mistake? But then a servant brought a message. It was from Daniel. The note said only 3 words. I am waiting. Vera walked into the diplomatic chamber with her head held high for the first time in 5 years. When other Valorans saw her, they whispered in shock. Some laughed. Her brother Kalen looked at her like she was an insect, but Daniel stood up when she entered. He smiled and pulled out a chair beside him. I saved you a seat. he said simply. The session began. It was complicated. Different species argued about trade routes and resource sharing. Vera watched Daniel struggle. He was smart, but he did not know the hidden politics. He did not understand which species hated each other secretly. He could not read the subtle signs of deception, but Vera could. She leaned close to him and whispered, "The ambassador from the Draven Consortium is lying. His species always touches their left ear when they lie." Watch. Daniel watched. The ambassador touched his ear 3 times during his speech. Daniel changed his approach. He asked different questions. The Draven ambassador became nervous. Eventually, he admitted he was hiding important information about the trade route. After the session, Ambassador Grace Mitchell approached Daniel. "That was impressive work. How did you know he was lying?" Daniel looked at Vera. "I had help." Grace studied the Valoran princess with new interest. "I see. Perhaps you could join us for dinner tonight." Princess Vera, I would love to hear your thoughts on tomorrow's negotiations. From that day, Vera became Daniel's secret weapon. She taught him which species could be trusted. She explained ancient conflicts that still affected modern politics. She translated not just words but meanings. With her help, Earth's delegation achieved things no one expected. They secured 3 major trade agreements in just 2 weeks, but not everyone was happy about this. Baron Felix of the Draven Consortium was angry. Daniel had embarrassed him in front of everyone. One evening at a formal dinner, the Baron decided to take revenge. He could not attack Daniel directly, so he attacked Vera instead. "Captain Cole," the Baron said loudly, making sure everyone could hear, "I see you have adopted a pet. How kind of you to take in damaged goods. Tell me, does she perform tricks?" The room went silent. Vera's face became pale. She had heard insults like this many times. She prepared herself to be humiliated again, but Daniel stood up. Slowly, his face was calm, but his eyes were cold as ice. "Baron Felix," Daniel said, "on Earth we have a saying, a man who insults a woman reveals only his own weakness." He stepped closer to the Baron. "Princess Vera is not damaged. She is not goods. She is not a pet. She is a brilliant woman who deserves respect. And if you speak about her like that again, we will have a serious problem." The Baron laughed nervously. "You would risk diplomatic relations for this?" Baron Creature, without hesitation. Daniel said, "Some things are more important than politics. Honor is one of them. Decency is another. Perhaps these concepts are foreign to you." The Baron's face turned red with anger. He looked around for support, but no one would meet his eyes, even species who treated their own infertile members badly were uncomfortable. There was something powerful about Daniel's conviction, something that made them question themselves. The Baron left the dinner early. The incident would be talked about for weeks. That night, Vera knocked on Daniel's door. When he opened it, she fell into his arms, crying. "Why?" she asked through her tears. "Why do you defend me? Why do you care? You could have made a powerful enemy. Tonight, the Draven Consortium is important, and you risked it all for me." "For nothing." Daniel held her gently. "You are not nothing, Vera. You are the most remarkable person I have met in this entire galaxy. I defend you because you deserve to be defended. Because someone should have done it years ago." Vera cried harder. 5 years of pain and loneliness poured out of her. She told Daniel everything, how her family abandoned her, how friends disappeared, how she spent nights alone, wondering if death would be better than this endless shame. Daniel listened to every word. He did not judge, he did not offer empty comfort, he simply held her and let her release years of suffering. When she finally stopped crying, Daniel said, "Come to Earth with me." Vera pulled back, shocked. What Earth needs? A cultural ambassador, someone who understands galactic politics, someone brilliant and brave. Daniel touched her face gently. "And I need you, Vera. I do not want to leave this summit without you. My father will never allow it," Vera whispered. "Let me handle your father." The next day, Daniel formally requested Princess Vera as Earth's cultural ambassador. He presented it as a diplomatic arrangement beneficial to both species. Emperor Salon agreed immediately. He did not even pretend to think about it. He was happy to send his shameful daughter far away. On the day of departure, Vera walked to the human ship with her small bag of belongings. Her family did not come to say goodbye, only her loyal handmaiden Rosa cried and hugged her. But Prince Kalen came. He wanted one last chance to hurt her. Finally he sneered, "You found your place, a pet too. Primitives, how fitting." Daniel stepped forward, but Vera stopped him. She faced her brother with a calm smile. "Goodbye, Kalen," she said. "I hope you find happiness someday." "I know I will." Kalen's smile faded. He did not know how to respond to kindness. As the ship prepared to leave, Daniel spoke loudly, enough for everyone nearby to hear. "She is not our pet, Prince Kalen. She is our guest, our colleague, our friend." He took Vera's hand, "And soon, if she will have me, she will be my wife." Vera's heart stopped. She looked at Daniel with wide eyes. He smiled at her and she saw only love and certainty. The ship's doors closed. Through the window, Vera watched her home planet grow smaller. She was leaving behind everything she knew, her family, her culture, her entire world. But for the first time in 5 years, she was not afraid. She was free. Vera pressed her face against the ship's window as Earth came into view. Blue and green and white. It looked like a jewel floating in the darkness of space, so different from her gray home world, so alive. "It is beautiful," she whispered. Daniel stood beside her. "Wait until you see it up close." Nothing could have prepared Vera for Earth. She expected a primitive world with simple people. Instead, she found a planet bursting with life and color and noise. Cities filled with millions of people. Forests older than her entire civilization. Oceans so vast she could not see the other side. And everywhere, humans living and laughing and loving. But what shocked her most was not the planet, it was the people. In her first week, Vera saw something that made her stop in the street. A human couple walked past with 3 children. 2 children looked like them, one did not. The third child had different skin and different features. "That child is adopted," Daniel explained. "Her biological parents could not care for her, so this family chose her. They love her the same as their other children." Vera could not speak on her world. Bloodline was everything. Adoption was unthinkable, but here a child without biological connection was loved completely. She saw more. As the weeks passed, she met couples who chose not to have children. They were not shamed. They were not called worthless. They had careers and friends and full lives. She met single mothers who raised children alone, and were celebrated for their strength. She met families of all shapes and sizes, and no one cared about fertility tests or breeding value. I do not understand, Vera told Daniel one night. How can you not care about bloodlines, about continuing your family? Daniel thought carefully. We care about family, Vera, but family is not just blood. Family is the people who love you, the people who stay when things are hard, the people who choose you. He took her hand. You will understand when you meet my mother. Ellen Cole was a small woman with gray hair and warm brown eyes. She lived in a simple house near the ocean. When Daniel brought Vera home, his mother hugged the alien princess like they had known each other for years. So, you are the brilliant woman my son cannot stop talking about, Ellen said. Come inside, I made dinner. Daniel's sister Amy arrived later. She was a nurse who worked at a fertility clinic. She was kind and funny and treated Vera like a sister from the first moment. Danny says, you are the smartest person he ever met. Amy said, that is impressive. My brother does not give compliments easily. Dinner was loud and full of laughter. Ellen asked Vera about her life. Amy teased Daniel about his terrible cooking. They told old family stories. They argued about small things and laughed about them. Immediately after, it was nothing like the cold formal dinners in the Valor Palace. After dinner, Amy asked Vera a careful question. Daniel told me about your situation, about what your people said. Would you be willing to let me examine you? I work with fertility science every day. I would like to understand what their tests actually measured. Vera agreed, though she expected nothing. She had accepted her fate years ago, but when Amy finished her test, her face showed surprise. Vera, Amy said slowly, you are not infertile, not by human standards. Vera's heart stopped. What do you mean? The Valoran tests measured your compatibility with Valoran males only. Their biology is very specific, but human biology is different, more adaptable. Amy smiled. With a human partner, you could have children. The probability is actually quite high. Vera could not breathe. For 5 years she had believed she was broken, worthless, unable to do the one thing her culture valued, and now this human doctor was telling her it was all wrong. She started crying, great heavy sobs that shook her whole body. Daniel rushed in when he heard. He held her as Amy explained everything. Is this why you brought me here? Vera asked Daniel through her tears. Because you wanted children. Daniel knelt in front of her. He took her face in his hands and looked directly into her eyes. Vera, listen to me. I did not know about this. I brought you here because I love you, because you deserve to be somewhere that values you, because I want to spend my life with you. His voice was firm and certain. I would have married you even if you could never have children. Clear's throat. I fell in love with you, not your womb, not your biology. You. Vera kissed him then. Their first real kiss. It tasted like tears and hope and the beginning of something new. In the months that followed, Vera built a new life. She became Earth's official cultural ambassador. She visited universities and taught students about galactic politics. She appeared on news programs explaining alien customs. People loved her. They were fascinated by her silver skin and violet eyes, but they respected her for her intelligence and grace. Headlines called her the princess who chose us. Social media adored her. Children dressed like her for costume parties. For the first time in her life, Vera was not hidden, she was celebrated, and through it all, Daniel was beside her. He took her on simple dates, walks on the beach at sunset, picnics in the park, cooking dinner together badly, and laughing about it. He showed her what love looked like without conditions, without requirements, without tests. One night Daniel took Vera to a hill outside the city. The stars were bright and clear. He got down on one knee and opened a small box containing a simple gold ring. Vera, he said, I have loved you since the moment I saw you standing alone on that balcony. You are brilliant and brave and kind. You make me want to be better every day. Will you marry me? Vera was crying again, but these tears were pure joy. Yes, she said, yes, 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 as Daniel put the ring on her finger. Vera looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there was her old home, her family who abandoned her, her people who called her worthless, but she did not feel sad anymore. She was exactly where she belonged. News of the engagement spread across the galaxy like fire. Every news channel talked about it. The Baron Princess and the human captain. The love story that crossed species and defied tradition. Some called it romantic, others called it scandalous, but everyone had an opinion. On the Valoran home world, Emperor's son watched the news with a dark expression. His worthless daughter was being treated like a treasure. The child he had thrown away was now famous across the galaxy. And everyone was asking the same question: why did the Valorans reject her? It made him look foolish. It made his entire culture looked cruel. But no one was angrier than Prince Kalen. His engagement had fallen apart. His intended bride, a princess from another species, had refused to marry him. She said she wanted to meet the human who chose love over lineage. She said she wanted to understand how a primitive species could be so wise when advanced species were so blind. Kalen broke 3 pieces of furniture when he heard this. His worthless sister was ruining everything, even from across the galaxy. She was humiliating him. He went to his father with a demand. We must get her back. We must stop this wedding. Emperor's son agreed. He sent an official message to Earth's government. The message was cold and threatening. It said that Princess Vera was property of the Valorian Empire. She must return home immediately for re-education. If Earth refused, there would be serious consequences. Trade agreements would be cancelled. Economic sanctions would be imposed. The Valorans were a powerful empire. Earth was a small new species. They should not risk such a conflict over one worthless woman. Earth's leaders received the message with concern. The Valoran Empire controlled important trade routes. Fighting them could hurt Earth's economy for decades. Some officials suggested that maybe they should let Vera go. One woman was not worth a galactic conflict. Daniel was called to a meeting with Admiral Thomas Reed, the commander of Earth's diplomatic fleet. The admiral was an old soldier with gray hair and sharp eyes. Captain Cole, the admiral said, you have put us in a difficult position. Valorans are threatening serious action. Daniel stood straight and calm. With respect, Admiral, the Valorans have no claim over Vera. She is an adult who made her own choice. She is not property to be traded. The Valorans do not see it that way. Then the Valorans are wrong, Daniel said firmly, and Earth should not reward bullies by giving them what they The Admiral studied him for a long moment, then surprisingly he smiled. I agree, I wanted to see if you would. Stand firm, you passed the test. Captain, meanwhile, Vera heard about the threats. She went to Daniel's apartment that night with tears in her eyes. I should go back, she said. I cannot let Earth suffer because of me. I am not worth a war. Daniel took her hands. Vera, you are worth everything and you are not going anywhere. We fight this together or not at all, but the consequences, let them come, Daniel said. Earth does not abandon its people. And you are our people now. The next day, Earth's government gave their official response to the Valorans. The message was simple. No, Vera was a free person with full Earth citizenship. She had chosen to stay. Earth would not force her to leave against her will. If the Valorans had a problem with this, that was their problem. The news exploded across human media. Everyone was talking about it, and something unexpected happened. Humans were angry. Not at Vera, not at Daniel, at the Valorans. How dare they, people said. How dare they treat a woman like property? How dare they call her worthless and then demand her back like a lost object? How dare they threaten our world over one person's freedom? Protests formed in major cities. Signs said, Vera is ours and hands off our princess, and humanity stands together. People who had never met Vera were ready to fight for her because she was one of them now. She had chosen humanity and humanity chose her back. The public support was so strong that Earth's government made another decision. They formally granted Vera full citizenship. She was no longer just a guest or an ambassador. She was officially human in the eyes of the law. Prince Kalen watched all of this from across the galaxy. His rage grew hotter every day. Official channels were failing. Public pressure was making the Empire look bad. His father was starting to retreat from the aggressive position. Kalen decided to handle things himself. He contacted an underground group of assassins, the best in the galaxy. He paid them an enormous amount of money. Their mission was simple: kill Princess Vera before the wedding, make it look like an accident, end this embarrassment once and for all. The assassins arrived on Earth quietly. They studied Ver's schedule. They waited for the perfect moment. It came during a public event. Vera was speaking at a university about galactic cooperation. Hundreds of students filled the auditorium. Daniel sat in the front row, proud and smiling. Vera was in the middle of her speech. When the attack began, a figure in the crowd stood up with a plasma weapon. Another appeared near the exit. A third dropped from the ceiling. They moved with professional precision. Daniel saw the weapon pointed at Vera. He did not think. He did not hesitate. He threw himself in front of her. Just as the first shot fired, the plasma burned through his shoulder. He fell to the ground, blood spreading across his uniform, but he had blocked the shot. Vera was safe. Security forces moved immediately. They had been prepared for trouble, even if they did not expect it so directly. In minutes, all three assassins were captured. The crowd was evacuated. Emergency medical teams rushed to Daniel. Vera knelt beside him, crying and pressing her hands against his wound. Daniel, stay with me. He smiled weakly. Even through the pain, I told you, we fight together. I will always protect you. The next hours were tense. Daniel went into surgery. Doctors worked to repair the damage. Vera waited outside. covered in his blood, refusing to leave or change clothes. When the doctors finally came out, they were smiling. Daniel would survive. The wound was serious but not fatal. He would need time to heal, but he would be fine. Vera collapsed with relief, but the story was not over. Earth's intelligence agencies traced the assassins quickly. The evidence led directly to Prince Kalen. He had not been careful enough. His communications were found. His payments were tracked. The proof was undeniable. Admiral Thomas Reed went on Galactic broadcast that night. His face was hard as stone. His voice was cold as space. Citizens of the galaxy, he said, today, agents hired by Prince Kalen of the Valorian Empire attempted to murder one of our citizens. Captain Daniel Cole nearly died protecting his fiancée. This was an act of war. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. The Valorian Empire calls us primitive. They call us young and weak. They thought they could threaten us and we would submit. They were wrong. His eyes seemed to look directly at the Emperor. Touch our people again, and you will learn why humans should never be underestimated. This is not a threat. This is a promise. Across the galaxy, billions watched in silence, and for the first time the great Valorian Empire felt something they had not felt in centuries: fear. The wedding day arrived with perfect sunshine. Golden light spread across the coastal city where Vera and Daniel had chosen to become husband and wife. Flowers decorated every street. Music played from every corner. It felt like the entire planet was celebrating, and in many ways it was. Billions of humans watched the broadcast. Ships from dozens of alien species floated in orbit, their crews tuned to the same channel. This was more than a wedding. This was a statement. This was proof that love could defeat cruelty, that kindness could triumph over tradition, that one person's worth was not decided by biology or bloodlines or the cold judgments of others. Vera stood in a small room, looking at herself in the mirror. Her wedding dress was white, with silver details that matched her skin. Her violet eyes were bright with tears she refused to let fall. Not yet. She wanted to save her tears for the moment she saw Daniel. Ellen Cole helped adjust her veil. Daniel's mother had become like a second mother to Vera. In the past year, she was kind and warm and never treated Vera as anything other than family. You look beautiful, Ellen said softly. My son is a lucky man. I am the lucky one, Vera whispered. He saved my life in more ways than one. Amy appeared at the door. It is time. Vera walked down the aisle alone. She had no father to give her away, no family from her old world, but she did not feel alone. Every step brought her past rows of smiling faces, humans who had welcomed her, friends she had made in her new life. Ambassador Grace Mitchell dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Admiral Thomas Reed sat in full uniform, looking proud, and at the end of the aisle Daniel waited. He still carried his arm in a sling from the assassination attempt. The doctors told him to rest. He refused. He said he would stand at that altar if he had to crawl there. Vera loved him even more for that. When their eyes met, Vera finally let her tears fall. Daniel was crying too. Neither of them was ashamed. The ceremony was simple and beautiful. They exchanged vows they had written themselves. Daniel promised to love her in sickness and health, in joy and sorrow, in this world and any other they might find themselves in. Vera promised to be his partner, his friend, his home. She promised that wherever they went, they would go together. When they kissed, the crowd erupted in cheers. Sound was so loud it seemed to shake the building. Across the galaxy, people of dozens of species celebrated with them. At the reception, Vera was asked to give a speech. She stood before the cameras, knowing that billions were watching. For a moment, she remembered the girl she used to be, the ghost hiding in shadows, worthless princess that nobody wanted. That girl was gone forever when I left my home world. Vera began. I believed I was broken. I believed I had no value. My own people told me this every day for 5 years. I believed them because I had no reason not to. She paused, looking at Daniel. Then I met a human who saw something different. He saw not what I could not do, but who I was. He saw my mind, my heart, my soul, and he thought those things were enough. She turned back to the cameras. Earth taught me something my world never did. Worth is not given by others. Worth is not measured by what your body can produce. Worth is inherent. It exists in every person simply because they exist. Her voice grew stronger. I am not valuable because I can now have children. I am not valuable because I married a hero. I am valuable because I am me. And every person watching this, whatever species you are, whatever your biology, whatever your society tells you about your worth, you are valuable too. The applause lasted for several minutes. Vera saw tears on faces across the room. She knew her words would travel across the galaxy. She hoped they would reach someone who needed them. The first year of marriage was happy beyond Vera's dreams. She and Daniel built a home near the ocean. She continued her work as cultural ambassador. He returned to diplomatic duties. They cooked terrible dinners together and laughed about it. They walked on beaches. At sunset, they lived the simple, beautiful life that Vera had never believed she could have. And then came the news that changed everything. Vera was pregnant. The doctors confirmed it. With smiles, twin heartbeats, a boy and a girl, the first human Valoran children in history. When Vera told Daniel, they both cried for an hour. News of the pregnancy spread quickly. It was impossible to keep secret. The galaxy buzzed with the implications. The barren princess was not barren at all. The worthless woman was carrying twins. Everything the Valorans believed about her was wrong. On the Valorian home world, the scandal reached its peak. Evidence of Prince Kalen's assassination attempt had caused outrage among other species. Trade partners abandoned the empire. Allies refused to answer calls. The great Valoran civilization was facing isolation because of one prince's cruelty. Emperor Salon had no choice. He publicly disinherited Kalen. The prince was stripped of his titles, his lands, his position in the line of succession. He was sent to a distant outpost in disgrace. His name was forbidden to be spoken in the palace, and in a twist that shocked everyone, the emperor made an announcement. With Kalen removed and his other children proving incompetent, the line of succession was unclear. By ancient law, the throne could pass to the next worthy heir, and the only child of Emperor Cylon, who had brought honor to the family name, was Vera. The offer came through diplomatic channels. Would Princess Vera return home to claim her birthright? Would she become empress of the Valoran civilization? Vera received the message while holding her newborn twins. Her son named Thomas after the admiral, who defended their family. Her daughter, named Alina after the grandmother who welcomed her with open arms. She looked at Daniel, he looked at her. They both knew the answer without speaking. Vera sent her reply, no thank you. She had found her home, she had found her family. She was no longer Princess Vera of House Salon. She was Vera Cole of Earth, wife, mother, beloved queen. The hearts of humanity, that was more than any empire could offer. Years passed, the twins grew into remarkable people. Thomas became a starship captain exploring distant corners of the galaxy. Alina became a diplomat, working to build bridges between species. They inherited their mother's intelligence and their father's courage. They were living proof that love between different peoples could create something beautiful. And across the galaxy, chain spread slowly but surely. On dozens of worlds, infertile individuals demanded rights. They pointed to Vera's story as proof that worth was not biological. Some governments reformed their policies. Some cultures began to question old traditions. The process was slow, imperfect, often painful. But it had started. Historians would later say that the marriage of Daniel Cole and Vera of Earth was a turning point in galactic history, not because of politics or power, but because one human chose to love someone the universe had rejected, and that simple choice echoed across the stars. The final scene of this story is simple: an evening on Earth many years later. Daniel and Vera sit on their porch watching the sunset over the ocean. Their hair is gray now. Their faces carry the lines of a life well lived, but their hands are still intertwined. Their love is still strong. Vera rests her head on Daniel's shoulder. Do you remember what you said to me that first night on the balcony of my father's palace? Daniel smiled. I said, different might be good. You were right. She looks at the sky where stars are beginning to appear. They called me barren, broken, worthless. Daniel kisses her forehead gently. His voice is soft. With decades of love, they were fools. I called you mine, and somewhere across the galaxy, among species who had learned from humanity's example, a saying had become common. Children learned it in schools. Philosophers debated its meaning. Poets wrote verses about its truth. The saying was simple: if you want to know how to love, ask a